Hello everyone, this is Daughter Darkness, and today this is a guide for newcomers to coming to the Kingdom Hearts series. So if you've maybe seen some of the stuff for Kingdom Hearts 3 and you're interested, or maybe you've played one or two of the older games and you haven't got into it as an adult, or even if you've just never really known anything about the series but think it might be worth a shot, this is hopefully going to help anyone who wants to get into the series. Basically, I'm just going to go over all of the purchases that you need to make. It's not as many as some people might think, as well as the order in which you should play all of the games, as well as a bit of context needed before going into each game, and a few general tips to just make life a little bit easier as you're going through those games. And just in case anyone's worried, I will be talking about no story content about any of these games, so if you haven't played any of them, then you're absolutely okay to keep watching the video. No spoilers at all. So in terms of purchases, well, as far as hardware goes, all you need is a PS4. That is where the entire series is. In fact, it's the only place where you can play the entire series. There are two collections that you need to buy. The first one is Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 Remix. Yes, I know the name's a bit long, but it's basically two smaller collections that they've just put together, so it's got this weird compound name. And this collection basically features the first 6 games in the series. The other purchase that you need to make is Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue, and that contains the next 3 games in the series. And then that's everything. You're ready for Kingdom Hearts 3, and that'll obviously be the next purchase whenever that's out, or when you finish playing the games, whichever one comes last. There is another option that's come available since E3, and that is the all-in-one collection, which is available exclusively on the PlayStation Store, and it basically includes both of these collections and a pre-order for Kingdom Hearts 3, all for £90 or $100, or, it varies depending on your currency. But I would recommend just buying 1.5 plus 2.5 first, because it's less of a commitment. And if you try the games for a bit and you realise that they're not for you, then you can actually sell them as an option. You don't have to, have dropped that much money in one go that you can't get back. If you're being a real completionist, then there are 3 games that are not fully featured on these collections. These are games that were basically turned into cutscene movies, and all of the essential story, at least as far as we know, is in those movies. However, if you really do want to just experience everything that the series has to offer, then there are 3 more games, which are Kingdom Hearts 358 Days Over 2 for the DS, Kingdom Hearts Recoded for the DS, and Kingdom Hearts Union Cross, which is a free-to-play mobile game. However, what's in the collections is enough for you, and these 3 games in terms of gameplay are among the weaker entries in the series, so I would say for most people that's really not worth it. Just stick with what's on the PS4. So now, once you've bought the games, it's obviously about playing them. And as a few general points, I recommend playing almost every game in the series on the hardest difficulty, especially Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2. 2 more than any other, because that's really where the combat shines. On easier difficulties you can mostly just get through it by mashing the attack button, but on harder difficulties you have to kind of explore all of the different abilities, spells, summons and all that sort of stuff that you get to use, and in those 2 games most of these are quite useful. The only exception is Rechain of Memories, just because the combat system there, while not bad, is very different, and it's probably a bit less accessible for newcomers, so it makes more sense to go on an easier difficulty, be it beginner mode or standard mode, whichever you prefer, just so that you can have a bit more time to kind of get used to it rather than just dying constantly and getting frustrated. Next, a general point about the order. This series was not released in chronological order. There are in fact 3 prequels across the series that are set before their predecessors, but I do think that it's definitely worth playing the series in release order, not any other order, not chronological order at all, because each new entry kind of assumes that you've played the previous entries. Once you've played through them, most of the games have post-credits scenes, as well as smaller scenes during the credits, so it's absolutely worth sticking around through the credits throughout this entire series. And then a bit of a word of advice in terms of gameplay. Many of the games, especially 1 and 2, start fairly slowly, and they give you some fairly essential abilities quite slowly. For example, in Kingdom Hearts 1, you don't earn the ability to dodge until you've completed 2 worlds, and you don't earn the ability to guard until quite a while in. So just a general reminder that as you learn all of this stuff, it's worth trying all of it out. Where a lot of people fall short is certainly with summons, especially in Kingdom Hearts 2. The summons are extremely useful, but most players don't realise them because it's so long before you actually get to use them. Okay, so you put your disc of Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 Remix in, and you're presented with this screen. This has all the games available in this collection in an order. However, I would make one change to the order. I think that you should play Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix before watching the movie of 358 Days Over 2. Firstly, this keeps to the release order thing, but most of all, I feel like a lot of Kingdom Hearts 2's plot and story revolves around mystery that slowly unravels as you're going through the game. Whereas 358 Days Over 2 kind of gives the game away on quite a lot of different points, not least about the main character of that game, so I just think you're best off watching this after Kingdom Hearts 2, so play it in that order, so its actual release order and you aren't giving away too much of the game. So, Kingdom Hearts 1 Final Mix. This is obviously the first game in the series, so you don't really need any context going into it. A just general outline that this is a universe made up of separate worlds that are mostly based on Disney films. That's pretty much all you need to know going into it. The main characters, all that, you'll get introduced to it, and that's all absolutely fine. For the most part, you can just play through the story fairly comfortably. I will say there are a couple of worlds that you can actually skip, but I'd recommend playing through all of them. And as a little warning, this game probably gives you the least instructions in terms of navigation. There's quite a lot of times where you're going to get lost in worlds, and if you're someone who likes that and likes trying to find your way out of it, that's fine. If not, then feel free to find a guide or ask someone like me who's obviously played the game 100 times just to help you get through that. But still, there is a lot of fun to be had here. I will say that out of all the games in the series, this is probably the only one that does feel a little bit dated if you play it now. However, once you get used to it, there's still a lot of fun to be had here. Although the gummy ship sections, which is the way that you travel between worlds, are not great in this game. It's just something you've got to get through. They aren't that long, they don't get in the way of the experience too much, just kind of deal with them. And then once you've played through the story, in terms of optional content, there is a Colosseum mode, which is fun and worth playing through. And then there are also 3 secret bosses that are separate from the Colosseum that you find around the world. One of these is story important. I recommend doing certainly that one, but all of them really, because they do offer up a nice challenge. So that's Kingdom Hearts 1, then moving on to Rechain of Memories. Now this is a direct sequel to Kingdom Hearts 1. It's set immediately after the end of the first game. It picks up straight where that leaves off and continues on. The big stumbling point for a lot of people when they're playing this game is the combat, because this was originally on the Game Boy Advance and it has a very different combat system where you have to use cards in an action gameplay system. It's honestly better than it sounds, but I still recommend playing on an easier difficulty so it's easier to get into. The best advice I can give you here as you're playing through is to set up your deck before going into fights, not just to try and get powerful cards, but so you can use the slates, which are the special abilities that you can string 3 cards together and pull off these special abilities that really do make fights a lot easier. There is, however, no notable optional content for this game, so you can just play through the story and be done. However, there is a second story mode, so once you finish the main story, there is another one that is a little bit shorter, the gameplay is a little bit different, but it's still very much important. Still, this is a fairly easy one to just get through. Once you get past the slightly less accessible combat system, there's still a lot of fun behind once you get through. Then onto Kingdom Hearts 2 Final Mix, and again this is a direct sequel. It's set about a year after the end of Kingdom Hearts 1, and this game has a slow start. It takes a few hours before the game really gets going, but all that stuff at the start is sort of making the payoff later on better, and the game is definitely worth it once it gets going. Certainly in my opinion, this is the best game in the series. And it is really important that you play this game on critical mode. The combat in this game is the biggest strength that it has. It's absolutely fantastic, it feels really nice, and you've got loads of different options that are all useful at different times. But you only really see that if you play on the hardest difficulty and give the stuff a go, like summons and spells and all that sort of stuff. But this is way easier to navigate than the first game was, so you'll find an easier time actually getting through the story. And then onto the optional content. The Colosseum returns, but the sort of big thing here is that there's an optional dungeon that has 13 secret bosses at the end of it, as well as 2 other secret bosses that you can find around the world. And I cannot recommend playing this stuff enough. This is fantastic. There is one of the bosses that's story important, but more than anything, they're just really well designed and they're really good challenges. I can also say if you're into platinum trophies, out of the entire series, this game has the best platinum trophy, because it's less about grinding, more about just coming through these challenges. As far as grinding for this game goes, in most of these games you don't need to that much. The best advice I can give you is to level up your forms as soon as you unlock them and as soon as you can, because it gives you growth abilities that make navigating the world so much easier and better. So next is Kingdom Hearts 358 Days Over 2, and this is the first movie that you're going to be experiencing here, unless you decide to get the game on DS. This is a prequel to Kingdom Hearts 2, and it's set in the gap between it and the first game. As a cutscene movie, there is of course no gameplay, and it's about 3 hours long, so that is quite a lot, and it is quite tedious. A lot of the scenes have a similar setup, and they're worth it for the payoff at the end, but if you just watch it in one go, it will be a bit of a slog. Maybe, 20 minutes, half an hour at a time, and then go off and do something else for a bit. If you want to watch it all in one go, feel free, but I just think for newcomers it's probably best to pace yourself a little bit. Now there is a free piece of DLC available exclusively on the PS4 version that I do recommend getting. It just extends one of the more important scenes towards the end of the game, but it does really make it a lot more meaningful, and it does just complete that scene a lot better, so it's definitely worth getting. But obviously as a movie there's not that much you need to do, you just sit down and watch. So on to the next game of the collection, and it's Kingdom Hearts Birth by Sleep Final Mix, and this is another prequel, but this one is set about 10 years before Kingdom Hearts 1 and features 3 new main characters. The game is split into 3 stories, with each of the main characters getting their own story. There is also a final episode and a secret episode after that you can unlock. You can play the 3 stories in whatever order you want, the game lets you do that. However, I would recommend that while the other 2, it's up to you, play Aqua's story last. You'll certainly appreciate the story there a lot more, and Aqua's story does give the game away a bit of the other 2 a little bit too much. It is important to play this game on critical mode, less because it's a fun challenge, more because it reduces the requirements for unlocking the final episode and the secret episode. All you have to do on critical mode is complete all 3 stories and get all of the Xehanort reports that you can find around the place, and there'll be a guide online that will just tell you where the extra ones are. It doesn't require all that much extra work, whereas if you play it on an easier difficulty you're going to have to jump through a lot more hoops. There is quite a lot of optional content in this game too, as well as the Colosseum-like mode. There are a few secret bosses around. However, this stuff can be tedious and difficult in a bad way. If you want to do it, I would recommend doing it as Aqua, unless you're going for the Platinum Trophy, in which case you unfortunately have to do it with all 3 characters. But I think unless you're a completionist, you don't need to do all this. Just play this game through the story and then be done. So next is another movie. It's Kingdom Hearts Recoded, which is a direct sequel set immediately after Kingdom Hearts 2. This is another cutscene movie with no gameplay, of course. Like with Days, it's about 3 hours long. I think it's a bit more well put together than Days, because they actually added in a few extra scenes and like action scenes and that sort of thing, but it still might not be great to do all in one go. Watch it in short bursts and you'll probably find you'll enjoy it a lot more. There is a secret movie, which is just one scene that you unlock having completed this. You can just go into the chapter select and find it right at the end once you unlock it. That's absolutely fine. Again, it's a cutscene movie, all you have to do is watch it. So that's it for Kingdom Hearts HD 1.5 plus 2.5 Remix. At this point you've put in a lot of hours, and I'm assuming that if you've played this much you're probably in it for the long haul. So the next step is Kingdom Hearts HD 2.8 Final Chapter Prologue. When you get onto this game, it will give you another menu with the 3 games available here, and again I recommend one change to the order. I think you should watch back cover before playing Kingdom Hearts 0.2. This one isn't as important as the other one, but there are a couple of references to things in back covers that are mentioned in 0.2 that aren't absolutely essential, but it's just a better experience if you've watched the movie first, so do that. However, regardless of that, you certainly should be starting with Dream Drop Distance HD, which is a direct sequel set immediately after the events of Kingdom Hearts Recoded. One major mechanic that you're going to have to get used to in this game is the drop gauge. There are two characters with different stories as you go through this, but rather than playing one then the other, you kind of swap between them, and there's a gauge that runs out, and when it runs out, you change to the other one. That's absolutely fine. However, if it drops during a boss fight, you then have to start that boss fight again once you return to that character, so it's worth keeping an eye on it and either replenishing the drop gauge or just dropping immediately if you don't think you're going to be able to get through a boss before dropping. That's just something you have to navigate through. This game is fairly simple to get through. It's probably not absolutely essential you play on the hardest difficulty because there are a few bosses here that are kind of almost designed to make you angry. So if you want to play it on an easier difficulty, then feel free. If you are struggling at any point in this game, use balloon magic. Balloon magic is a bit overpowered. It will sort of help you and make your life easier on so many different things. There is one optional boss in this game, but it's not that important or that good. There are a few requirements you have to get through to unlock the secret movie, which again is just one scene here. If you fail to meet those requirements, then look for the secret ending on YouTube, but again, it's one of those things where if you play it on a harder difficulty, you'll have an easier time unlocking it, whereas if you play it on an easier difficulty, you have to jump through more hoops. So that is actually the last full game in the Kingdom Hearts series, so you're pretty much on the way. There's only a few hours left and you'll be absolutely ready for 3. The next one is Kingdom Hearts Key Back Cover, and this is a prequel to the entire series, and it's set over 100 years before the first Kingdom Hearts game. Again, this is a cutscene movie, but it's only 1 hour long this time, and it's not nearly as tedious as the other two, so you definitely can watch it all in one go and it won't feel too boring. This tells an abridged version of the story from the mobile game Kingdom Hearts Union Cross. That game is probably not worth playing at this point because there is just so much you have to get through, so much filler to go through to actually unlock it. There is a bit more story stuff that might be somewhat relevant later on. As far as we know, all of the important stuff is in back cover. But if you want to experience more, the wonderful people at KH Insider have put all of the cutscenes on YouTube, so you can just watch through them without getting through the fairly monotonous gameplay and tons of filler quests, and I will leave a link to that in the description below the video. And if you want to see that stuff, there's no reason to do that before 0.2, you can do that at the end, but back cover definitely before 0.2. Again, it's just a movie, so all you have to do is watch it. Now Kingdom Hearts 0.2 Birth by Sleep, a fragmentary passage, which wins the award for longest title in the series. This is a direct sequel to Dream Drop Distance that's set immediately after the end of it, but it features primarily a flashback story that's set immediately after the events of Birth by Sleep. It's only about 2 to 3 hours long depending on how much you're struggling, but it's definitely worth playing, and it uses a kind of limited and scaled back version of Kingdom Hearts 3's engine and combat, so if you're interested in having a little bit of a taster of 3, then it's definitely fun in that regard. But it won't take you too long to complete. There is one optional boss that's hidden behind a boss rush, and I do recommend going for this, not because it's important, it absolutely isn't, but it's a pretty good boss, it's a fun challenge, and it's one that's worth getting through. So, once you've played 0.2, that's it, you're ready for Kingdom Hearts 3. I hope that you've gone into this not so much from the standpoint of, okay, I need to catch up for 3. I hope that if you've played through the series, or if you're going to, you have a really good time playing all of it. The series is a really good experience. It's not perfect, there are games I don't like, there are things in it I don't like. However, it is definitely worth playing through as a whole. And I hope that anyone watching this finds it useful and finds it just helps their enjoyment and makes it easier to get into the series. Remember, you don't have to spend all that much money, and if you're worried about time, maybe you don't have enough to play it, well, there's no rush really, is there? Sure, you might want to be able to play Kingdom Hearts 3 at release, but if you're enjoying other games, then does it really matter? I think you should just enjoy the series for what it is. And that is the biggest recommendation out of everything that I can give. Enjoy the series to enjoy the series, not just as a checklist to get through it. That's all I had to say. I hope that I've helped someone or inspired someone to get into a series that I hold dear to my heart. So please leave your thoughts in the comments. If you've got any extra tips or anything like that, then please leave those in the comment section below the video. And while you're down there, please like this video if you did, and if you liked it, then check out my other videos and subscribe to this channel. And I hope that if you know someone who maybe wants to get into this series, this video might help them too. As always, thank you for watching.